Ever since Liberty Media bought Formula 1 in 2017, they've done a lot of good for the sport, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who thinks that. Sure, if you are one of those die-hard F1 fans, then you might not appreciate these so-called Drive to Survive stands, but if you're one of those people, then you probably have better things to do than moaning on Twitter, like watching the 2017 Russian Grand Prix for the 7th time this month. However, while Liberty Media and the FIA have done a lot of good stuff for the sport, they've also made some really questionable decisions. Again, this is all a matter of opinion, but for me, some of the worst things they've done in the past few years is to do with the very tracks we race at, namely the 4 tracks they've tried to get onto the calendar. So in today's video, I wanted to do a bit of moaning of my own, and impose some of my opinions on you lot. Now, as there isn't much footage of the tracks that don't exist yet, there are gonna be some parts in this video where you have to see my face. You have been warned. Firstly, let's talk about a track that very nearly made its way into the F1 calendar for this year, the Rio Motor Park. So, late last year, the Rio Motor Park was proposed as kind of an alternative Brazilian Grand Prix to replace Interlagos, and rightfully so, that got a lot of people complaining. Because, you know, Interlagos has been the host to, like, so many great moments in Formula 1 history, like Lewis Hamilton winning the World Championship, all of that heritage, plus such a good racetrack. You can't just take that away and swap it with some kind of low-quality Tilcadrome in the middle of a rainforest. And, yeah, it's in the middle of the rainforest. I mean, like, where, like, if you're trying to make this sport all about, you know, eco-friendliness, then the last thing you want to do is cut down loads of trees to do it. And I mean, yeah, you know, it would have been fine if the track looked okay and we got a bit of good racing, but it just looks shit. And then we have the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, which was announced late last year. As we all know painfully well, Saudi Arabia is a country which isn't great for human rights, and the deal is so obviously money motivated, it's painful. I mean, sure, the circuit looks alright to drive, but are we seriously saying that we should jeopardize the whole We Racers 1 movement just for a few extra quid and some more S's than the rest of the calendar combined? And not to mention, while the track might be fun to drive, there are literally 0 good overtaking opportunities. Alright, maybe turn 1, but that's basically it. The rest is just flat out corner after flat out corner. It's also yet another street circuit on the calendar, and while the street circuit is fine in moderation, when you're filling out 4 or 5 races with them, it gets a bit boring. Baku's kind of an exception to this rule because it looks like a genuinely decent circuit to drive on, and Monaco has enough heritage to warrant staying on the calendar. I guess Jeddah's only redeeming factor is the fact that it has the most corners on the calendar, but that's not exactly an achievement when you look at the track layout. Next up, there's the Miami Grand Prix, which got announced fairly recently actually. And you know, they've been kind of planning this for a long time, and a lot of people were excited for it, myself included. You know, they had essentially a blank canvas for this, and they could have done some really good things. However, instead of making some glorious racetrack to live up to the incredible place that is Miami, they decided to do yet another street circuit. And again, it's full of lots of S's, so not really much opportunity for overtaking, and it's so obviously a copy-paste job from like the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix and the Vietnamese Grand Prix, which we're about to get onto. And there's a ridiculously long straight as well, which, I mean, yeah, it kind of does provide an overtaking opportunity, but it's so easy to pass when you've got DRS that strong. I mean, if you've got DRS going the whole length of a straight, then it's pretty obvious you're going to make the pass, you know? So basically what they've done is they've taken this blank canvas that they had with Miami, and they've decided to paint it with shit. Finally, the Hanoi Grand Prix was supposed to be on the 2020 calendar, but mercifully it was cancelled and we never had to see it. Again, it was another example of F1's terrible new track design language, with most of the track being a bunch of high-speed corners, with the occasional hairpin to connect them up together. DRS passing was again far too easy, at least on the F1 game, and the racing was poor at best. Crashes were pretty much inevitable as well, with the walls being so close to the edge of the track, and it was, surprise surprise, another street circuit. I think this one is the least worst of F1's crimes against the people, but even so, they could have at least made an effort to make a good track for racing instead of just copy-pasting Maggots and Beckett's for an entire sector. Money would again have been a big factor in them going here, hence why they aren't racing this year. So again, it was a case of F1 forgetting its fanbase and just trying to make the most money it can. I guess it's excusable in a way, as it's in Liberty Media's best interest to maximize their profits. And Drive to Survive is bringing in a lot of new fans, so they're doing a really good job with that. But with regards to all of these new and proposed tracks, it seems that F1 are kind of forgetting the reason that it runs in the first place, which is the fans. It's a sport, and you know, without the fans, there is no point in running it at all. And there's no point in advertisers if no one's watching. And if there's no advertisers, then there's no money, and then there's no point in running the sport at all. Full stop. The end. That being said, I'm obviously trying to make a big deal out of something that isn't really that important in the grand scheme of things. And obviously, like Drive to Survive, there are so many things that Liberty Media have done that I'm personally a fan of, and I think I'd be lying if I said they're going to ruin Formula 1. But in a way, just considering these points, it does feel a bit like we're being forgotten as Formula 1 fans. But yeah, that's going to do it for this kind of rant style video. So if you enjoy these kind of videos where I put my face back into them and kind of work them into my usual style, then do let me know down in the comments. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you're new. Bye!